and really wants to be up front. Let us pray. Gracious God, we ask that you would allow us to quiet our minds. Let our ears not hear what is happening outside, that we might hear a word from you. So take the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts and let them be acceptable in your sight. Oh God, you are our rock and our Redeemer, our strength and our song. Amen. Advent is a jumble of ideas and traditions, one tumbling over another, pulling us this way and that. And that's not even taking into account the secular push to be holly and jolly and to buy to keep stores in our country in the black. To rush toward the holidays, get the most out of them that we can, and then settle back into the real world with a new time stamp. So forgive me if I got lost trying to imagine how to approach my message for the first Sunday in Advent, 2019. I was struck by the suggestion of packaging the gifts of Advent and opening them week by week, reminding us all of how to keep a little Advent in the pell-mell of pre-Christmas, as well as giving us a blueprint for the new year, our ever-present future. Hope. That is what was in our gift box today. I looked up the definition of hope and got an optimistic state of mind that is based on an expectation of positive outcomes in respect to one's own life or the world in general. But somehow that didn't really seem quite right. Certainly Isaiah 2, a passage that we read frequently during the Advent season, is a call to hope, with its soaring language and vision of a better world, a more tranquil world, a more integrated world. Yes, we need to have a picture of what that can be, of what it will be, say the prophets. Is that what hope is? Steadfastly holding onto something larger than ourselves, something that we may not see, something that will fall from the skies. God's plan, God's doing, God's new heaven and new earth. I think hope has to have that vision that we use as our destination. It is the prize on which we are to keep our eyes. But hope is more than just a pretty picture of the future. Hope does not allow us to sit back and wait for God to make everything right. Hope asks more of us. And this is where our reading from the Gospel of Matthew, the primary gospel for our new year, is helpful. Although talking about the end of days, the quasi-parable about one taken, one left, is meant to shake us from any passivity. Stay awake. Be watchful. Be ready. You never know when God will appear. Now, because we as Christians have gotten complacent about the end of times, with too many people projecting exact time and place, in sheer disregard of this morning's reading, I might add, and surprise, these projections then don't pan out. And so we've relegated the concept to zombie apocalypses. I had to do it with animals because the ones that I had that were like humans were scary. So, zombie apocalypses and sci-fi demolition of worlds. Hope seems to be in opposition to the end of the world scenarios, because the end of the world is supposed to be the beginning of something better. in the lens of Matthew cannot, should not be passive. It is vigilance, it is preparedness, it is being ever ready for the advent of God and God's reign. This is the statue in front of the United Nations, and it is someone beating their sword into a plowshare. This hope is active, doing stuff, very different from just dreaming of a beautiful vision and pining that it hasn't come true. So hope is both out there and right here. Hope is something we head towards and the action of getting on the road. And yet, something still seems to be missing. As I read a little more about what people think hope is, I stumbled into the science of positive psychology and its specialist, Charles R. Snyder. Now, Snyder has created what he calls hope theory. And he argues that hopeful individuals are able to establish clear goals, imagine multiple workable pathways toward those goals, and persevere even when obstacles get in their way. The more I thought about it, the more I liked this three-pronged approach. Isaiah gives us the vision in one form, the goal, so to speak, the new way that we could be together, and the new world we could, with God's help, produce. Matthew gives us the pep talk, that we need to be doing something. In Snyder's terms, the agency, the will to be on the way toward the goal. So we have the vision, or goal from Isaiah. We have the agency, the push to be the way, to be in the way from Matthew. And what's missing from our picture of hope, as seen through our morning scriptures, is the pathway. How do we get from where we are to where we want to go? I like that Snyder imagines that there are multiple workable pathways, that we don't have to get on one road and stay there, that we don't have to all be on the same road, and that there might be other ways other than roads. And that's where our concept of hope circles back. Hope certainly has an individual component to it. One of my favorite definitions of hope comes from Emily Dickinson's short poem, which starts, "Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all." But another poetic image of hope is more ancient and more expansive. In the Greek myth of Pandora, after allowing all the ills to escape the box or jar that she held and plague the earth, Pandora is left with only one thing, hope. Now, I'm not sure I understand how hope was in the jar with all of those ills, like greed and envy and hatred and mistrust and sorrow and anger and revenge and lust and despair. But the moral of the story is that humanity, us as a collective, is left only with hope. Hope is the one gift we have that might do us some good. And maybe the wisdom from the ages can partner with the vision of Isaiah of all nations, all peoples, all coming together. Although our individual stories can be buoyed by hope, hope itself is not intended as a solitary occupation. Hope is a gift given to the world. Hope is what God speaks as the future of God's full creation. Hope is what we dream together. Hope is what we do together. Hope is us figuring out pathways that intersect and fly over and merge and separate in our mutual movement toward a shared future. And that is how we get to the work of hope. Hope isn't a present that we put on a shelf to comfort us in the dark times, although we can do that. Hope is a present that we put in our pocket to be a touchstone a wake-up call to constantly remind us to get out of our chairs, out of our funk, out of our individual bubbles, and be at the work of hope together. Dickinson imagined that hope sings the tune without the words. And as a musician, I can kind of understand that. Sometimes tunes float around in our heads without words, and sometimes we can't for the life of us remember the words. And yet I know that science tells us if you code information with both words and tune, it gets embedded deeply into the brain. It has been shown that people who are in the haze of Alzheimer's and cannot speak will still be able to remember and sing the words to a song that they learned years ago. So, although I will let Emily have her tune without the words, I wanted us to have a tune with words to hang on to as we go our way this week, as we plan for this year, as we try to be faithful in our service and our work. It's a contemporary carol found in our hymn book, written by Marty Hagan in 1983. It's called Awake, Awake. We sang it this earlier, and I would like us to sing it together. And if you can, while you sing, hear the words in your mind, great. If you cannot do that, I would actually like you to look at the words. You can stop singing if that's the best way for you to hear the words, and you will hear the tune as it's going. But I would like us to hear this as words to us about what we are doing together, the work of hope. That one line, love be our song, and love our prayer, and love our endless story. Let us continue to sing together, holding fast to our first Advent gift from God, the gift of hope. Hallelujah. Amen.